Yeah. Bailey's online? Oh, I see you, Representative Bailey. Genevieve Cerf?
Here.
Kathy Chase? Here. Jackie Kopp?
She said she wasn't going to be.
Lynn Crockett Hubbard? She'll be on later. Susan Dean Shinbrot? Susan Dean Shinbrot? Okay. Sima Eben?
Here.
There she is, okay. Thomas Frickman, he's going to be late. Alfie Fritchie?
Here.
Neil Gardner's not going to be here. Lauren Gauthier?
No.
Emma Guanapiero? She's not feeling well either. James Gustafson?
Here.
Susan Hainline?
Here.
Thank you. Autumn Hanscom?
Here.
Matthew Ivy?
He's there.
Yeah. Edward Jacome?
Here.
Jackie Massett?
Here.
Roscoe Merritt?
Here.
Emily Norman?
Here.
Leanne Aubry?
Here.
Kristen Powers?
Here.
Sean Powers?
Here.
Adam Pacino? I thought I saw him. Adam Pacino? Okay. Emily Ray?
Here.
John Scott?
Here.
Richard Somerero?
Here.
Ian Thomas?
Here.
Jamie V.C. Williams? Harry Watson? Harry Watson?
He's on.
I see you somewhere. Okay, I see you, 25. Patricia Weaver, who's not well. Gary Wells? I see you, 26. Lee White? 27. Amy Whitehouse?
No.
Michael Whitney?
Here.
And Moderator Jill Rusk, 29.
Yes.
29 at call.
Thank you. Representative Aubry, would you mind joining us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you'll remain standing for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I will take a motion to approve the March 9th, 2022 minutes, please.
So moved.
Representative Adams and seconded by Representative Sean Powers. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, motion passes. All right, we are moving on to citizen petitions. No, you don't.
Okay.
Thank you, though. 1 second. This is the portion of the RTM agenda where the RTM welcomes comments from citizens. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or as directed, and if possible, submit written comments. Presentations should be limited to matters pertinent to the town of Groton. The moderator or members through the moderator shall ask questions only in order to clarify the speaker's presentation. Responses may be given by the moderator and/or the town manager. Citizens should state their name and address for the record, please. First person I have on the list is Jim Burke.
Let's see. Can you hear me? Is that all
Really
right?
close to the mic.
Okay. All right. Dear RTM members, my name is Jim Burke. I live at 234 Ocean View Avenue, and I'm here to speak in favor of the Parks and Recreation Department Plan Community Connectivity Study. I'm a board member of Bike Groton. We're a local bicycle and pedestrian advocacy organization that advocates for the equitable allocation of transportation and recreational resources in our community. We are a registered charity with a board of directors composed primarily of Groton residents that are passionate about biking as a fitness activity and a mode of transportation. We also promote walking for the same reasons and because biking and walking improvements are so closely related. Bike Groton urges the RTM to approve the use of funds recommended by the Town Council for the Parks and Recreation Department's Community Connectivity Study. This study will be an important contribution to the creation of a more pedestrian and bicyclist-friendly community. Benefits include it will ensure equitable distribution of resources to all parts of the town. It will lay the groundwork for implementation of capital projects large and small by breaking the potential segments of trails, sidewalks, and bike lanes into definable projects. It will make it easier and more logical to bike to local destinations by creating and connecting bike lanes, trails, and sidewalks. It will enhance the town's ability to receive federal and state funding and will simplify the preparation of grant applications for eligible projects. It will strengthen coordination between Parks and Recreation, Planning, and Public Works. A comprehensive plan is mandatory for a community to be recognized by the League of American Bicyclists as a bicycle-friendly community, a prestigious and coveted award. According to the 2020 Groton Community Recreational Needs Assessment Survey, town residents have indicated that expanded trails and safe places to bicycle and walk are among the most important improvements that can be made to the town. Bike Groton believes that the community connectivity study is a good investment for the people of Groton. Thank you for your consideration. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Next on is Larry Dunn.
Good evening, members of the RTM and Town Manager Burt. I'd like to, Larry Dunn, 91 Crosswinds Drive. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
I'd like to identify the Capital Improvement Program Activity 8, which is Planning and Economic Development Project for Open Space Acquisition, which the Town Council action recently has reduced to zero in the budget. This CIP was introduced in response to the 2016 Plan of Conservation and Development Recommendations, 2-5, that states fund open space acquisition in the capital improvement program at $25,000 per year. Historically, the budget shows the town acquisition fund balance by 2020 was $62,000, 2021 $73,000, 2022 $74,000, must have been a good interest-bearing year, and 2023 is now zero. The reason it's zero is that the funds that have been accumulated are being spent to support the ongoing Wolfbrook property purchase, which is exactly the purpose of the fund. To level set, the town of Groton has created, by its own actions, 8.65% of its lands for open space through town council actions. Now, to be fair, state and private parties contributed an additional 11.25%, which means town of Groton is not even doing its fair share in terms of supporting the open space and conservation plan. The current federal objective is 30% per the January announcement of the 30 by 30 program. For Groton, that would mean an additional 1,600 acres to be saved. Given the current zero balance in the fund, I recommend that the RTM not only restore the budget at the 25, but kick in up to 40 to both restore that 2022 reduction and kind of get back to the original level of the funding request. Continuing efforts to reverse the declining carbon footprint in Groton is critical to addressing the existential threat known as climate change. Funding staff and programs to create plans, but failing to have a budget that will allow actions to be implemented for those plans is a bit short-sighted. I thank you for considering this issue as you go through your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, can we either get a copy of that or have you?
He
Oh,
gave it.
perfect. Thank you so much.
Chairman.
Next up, I have Scott, is it Kilty? Thank you.
Yeah, I can just show you what I have. I've got a bunch. So that was his.
Hi, my name is Scott Kilty, 15 Michelle Lane, and to the RTM. I became a volunteer about 2 years ago after I retired from dentistry. I was looking for a way to occupy my time and be a part of a larger image that will have a positive effect on myself and the community in which I live. I found the Senior Center, now Thrive 55. Since I began volunteering, I found that people's lives are enriched by all the things done at the center. During the pandemic, we handed out lunches, even dressed up accordingly. I also lead the garden committee, co-chair the bingo committee, and I'll do anything that needs to be done. I want to be the go-to volunteer. So anything from greeting folks to cleaning up. Volunteering gives me a sense of fulfillment, interpersonal relations, and organization. I have a love for people and generally don't say no. I find that by volunteering, my leadership skills are used on a regular basis, along with other skill sets that I utilized during my professional career. If I didn't have the volunteer program, I would feel empty. It helps with my weekly structure. I get to see the progress everyone makes and the program growth. I have friendship and camaraderie with all the volunteers and staff. Through the pandemic, lunches were served grab-and-go style. Volunteers handed them out and got to speak to those coming through, which gave a sense of connections daily. We dressed up for the holidays. I even got to play Santa. This has got to go. If we have funding cut at Thrive 55, this will impact the staffing, which will in turn make the volunteer program non-existent. This would be a shame to lose this program because it would make day-to-day programming suffer. In actuality, we would be losing more value than merely the cost of a staff position. Without volunteers at the center, we would lose its impact on the whole community. So without staff leadership, the volunteer program could not be sustained and would affect 11 staff in this whole building, 120 or so volunteers, which reach out to thousands of community members, 3,000 to 4,000, who look to the center for many needs on a day-to-day basis. The Thrive 55 Center provides to the community as a whole, and they are so much more than entertainment and luncheons. They offer critical resources and guidance for individuals that are facing challenges in their lives. Thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you. Yes, if we can get a copy of it, that'd be great. Thank you. Next up is A.J. Douglas.
All right. Thank you for the RTM for listening to us today. My name is Adrian Douglas. I'm at 74 Crown Mill Court in Groton. I'm speaking on behalf of all of us here who are wishing for renovations to the skate park. So I'm just gonna try and simplify our persistence for our cause. I think I speak for most of us when I say that Sutton Park has become an endeared second home to us. Not only has it been one of the pinnacle landmarks of Groton for as long as we can remember, our skate park has remained one of the more popular, sizable, and diverse parks in the region for just over 2 decades. And as time goes on, I believe we're all cherishing Sutton Park exponentially more. There's been a resurgence of people getting into skateboarding and involving themselves within our community that I believe will make a strong case for the future of our second home being in good hands. I think it's fair to say that Sutton Park is one of the token landmarks of Groton and possibly even southeastern Connecticut. Groton will always have historic areas and awesome scenery, but when I think about an environment that brings different groups together, is safe for all identities and ages, and has a continuously growing demographic, I think of Sutton Park. The playground and picnic areas of the property are signature parts of my childhood and likely many others as well. My younger days were filled with gatherings and cookouts that turned into playscape mania until we all tired out and left for the day just to come back the next X amount of days. I hope I speak for many of us when I say that we would love to see this continue on for generations to come. Being involved in the environment of the skate park has given many of us purpose, community, and a safe space. Skateboarding has always been an accepting route for those who did not or chose not to thrive in traditional cultures or sports. When I talk about our park being a communal home, I'm referencing everybody from core skateboarders down to those who are starting a new journey where they may not have had prior success or happiness. Being a skateboarder requires nothing but a good attitude and the will to learn. No degrees, no rankings, no gatekeeping. Sutton Park is an exceptional source of acceptance and inclusion, two elements that a lot of us may not have been fortunate enough to feel in other cultures. A lot of us sitting before you have been a regular participant in our skate park since near its inception in 1998. Our petitioning for the park's additions and improvements have given many of us a better sense of purpose and commitment to this community. We have been very envious and appreciative of this space since the beginning, but we believe the growth of our park and maintaining the homegrown demographic of our environment will be highly beneficial to everybody involved. I'm very confident in saying that any and all love, guidance, and respect that we receive from the townspeople will be reciprocated in full. Our mission is not only to build repertoire for ourselves and the skateboarding community, but to prove that Groton can and always will be a home for nostalgic feeling in a modern time. I want to thank you all for taking the time to hear us out and understand our side of history. I firmly believe the approved funding for improvements in Sutton Park will be a win-win situation for everybody, nothing less than a net positive. Just being here is tremendous progress for us, and I'm very excited to see what we as a town, a skate park, and as a solidarity can do for our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. If you have a copy of that and want to send it to the town clerk, it can get included in the minutes. Thank you. Mr. Jeff Paprocki? I'm sorry, the pen was out of ink, yes. Could you spell your last name when you come up too, just so I make sure I have it?
My name is Jeff Paprocki, Paprocki.
Thank you so much.
135 Flanders Road, Mystic. I didn't prepare a speech tonight, and I think this guy over here kind of covered it. I've been involved with the skateboard park since I was 17, petitioning to get it funded and build it, design it, the whole nine. I'm going to just make it short and kind of say that Sutton Park as a whole, I think, could use a facelift. You know, I saw the playground get rebuilt when I was a kid. It used to have like this wooden bridge and all this other stuff. It got built once before. The playground now is kind of in need. The skate park, definitely, I'd love to see it finished. I'd love to be a part of helping with the design or construction. And I really think that everybody really needs to come together and not rush a project like this, but I know there's bike paths that are like looking to be included to go through this park. I'd love to see the park expanded for skateboarding as well, for like a street skate, like there's different types of skateboarding. And there's some people that would love to have a nice path, like maybe we could have a path running alongside of a bike path for a while that goes to sort of space out the area. I feel like the walkways around the whole park, bathrooms, you know, people love that park, and it's in need of some maintenance. I'd love to see the fence taken down. I'd love to just see it be a safer, more enjoyable place. So if, just please consider approving whatever budget that, you know, is going to be involved with our parks. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have a copy.
Mark Dunning, Jr.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Mark Dunning Jr., 16 Hunting Ridge Drive. I'm here for the behalf of support for the renovation for Groton Skate Park. I've been going to Groton Skate Park since the fall of 2008. So the past 14 years, I've seen many enjoyments, such as professional skaters coming through, people from all over the world checking out the skate park, and had so many wonderful experiences growing up there. Growing up as a kid, I always didn't have the best confidence and was kind of an outcast and kind of got made fun of, so I couldn't fully be myself. But Groton, for me, was a place to be free and express myself, and these guys over here has helped me that throughout the years, from middle school, high school, and now at 26 years old. So this place has had a huge impact on my life since I was 13 to 14 years old. Also, the renovation is just time. 22 years, it needs a full update, a safer, and not only with the new renovation, it will help to improve the skateboard scene, have new kids get into skateboarding. It will also make the community better at Groton. I mean, Groton's right off of I-95, so imagine someone from out of town say, hey, let's go check out the skate park that has new renovations. I think that would be so vital for the community itself. And with Jeff, he is the brainchild of the skate park. Without him designing the skate park, a lot of us would not be here right now. It kept me out of trouble, and many people out of trouble as well. It saved my life many times when I was going through tough things. So without Jeff building the park, it wouldn't feel Groton, and I feel like everybody will understand when I'm saying that if you have somebody else design the new renovations in the park. And also, just to see what we've done for the past year and a half has been truly amazing. And here's a few examples. So a lot of my friends and I, we had a small fundraisers in the fall of November of last year. We raised $5,000, and that $5,000 is going to go to the new renovations of the park. Also, just lifting kids up and having a new scene of skaters coming through. We want to make it a welcoming community, as what these guys did to me when I was growing up. So we feel like it's our job to make sure these kids have a welcoming and safe environment. And I feel like with all these renovations that will happen to the park, it would be very vital to our town. And that's all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Dunning. Hunter Legnos. Did I pronounce that correct? Hunter, it's, I think, Legnos? He had to leave. Eugenia Valarga.
Good evening, representatives and the public and town staff. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak this evening. I'm here speaking on behalf of Groton Conservation Advocates to the issue of why annual funding of the Open Space Fund is critically important to the health and well-being of Groton's people, wildlife, and the environment that sustains us. First, wild, undeveloped places protect our streams, rivers, reservoirs, and ultimately Long Island Sound. What could be more important than clean water to our health and our economy? Clean water, for example, was the reason why Pfizer located in Groton. And second, last year, the scientific journal Climate published a study that reported that temperatures in southern New England are rising faster than the national average and are already up 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Trees and forests help keep temperatures low, and they help clean our air and our water. Third, Long Island Sound's average bottom temperature is rising steadily, driving away species like lobster. It has risen 5 degrees over the last 29 years. Warmer waters are also a catalyst for more severe storms and more sea level rise. Fourth, Connecticut lists 624 species of plants and animals as either endangered, threatened, or species of special concern. These lists include many songbirds, pollinating bees, hawks, owls, several kinds of turtles, and 8 species of bats. Fifth, Connecticut experienced nearly a month of bad air days in 2021. And sixth, Connecticut ranks low among New England states in land conservation. GCA recommends a goal of 30% open space in Groton by the year 2030, funded in part by a $40,000 annual contribution to the Open Space Fund. The Town Council recently voted 4-4 against funding for the Open Space Fund. The RTM can be the tiebreaker. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Okay.
And just for the record, I don't think you gave your address.
Oh, I did not give my address. And I probably didn't give my name, which is Eugenia Villagra, and I live at 76 Riverview Avenue.
Thank you.
In Groton. Thank you.
Liz Reisbach, you're next.
Good evening. My name is Liz Reisbach, and I live at 81 Main Street, Groton. I am also co-chair of Groton Conservation Advocates. We make good trouble in Groton. So this evening, I want to just speak briefly about the Parks and Rec budget. Our parks are one of the most important aspects that give us a wonderful quality of life here in Groton. And we, I think, often just take them for granted, but we shouldn't. So our parks make Groton one of the most, the diversity of our parks give us wonderful different kinds of experiences, from Pequannock Plains to Bluff Point to the new Sassacus Park on Quaponnock Road. Have any of you been there yet? It's a beautiful, wild park right in an urban center. So what's been happening with the parks budget is that over the past 10 years, even new parks have been added to Groton's list of parks, but the staffing to manage our parks has been dwindling. In 2009, Parks and Rec had 7.75 full-time employees assigned to the Parks Division and 7 seasonal employees. Currently, Parks and Rec has only 5.7 full-time employees and 4 seasonal. So over the last decade or so, staff has been going down. And at the same time, their responsibilities have grown substantial. They have taken up many new assignments: the fields around the community center, the former Fitch Middle School, the trails at the new Sassacus Nature Preserve, the Kopp Family Park, the Noang Park and Community Garden, Sparkle Lake Conservation Area, and Millwood Lake Creek Disc Golf Course. In 2023, Parks and Rec will add the fields at Gloucester School and the trails at Maple Glen. Additionally, the purchase of the Wolfbrook property, which should conclude this year, will add another 100 or so acres. These are all wonderful open spaces, getting considerable use, but without proper management, trails get rutted with erosion, grass gets worn off, and invasive species crowd in. So in the park budget for next year, there's an additional full-time employee. And I'm speaking this evening in support, asking your support to give the Parks and Rec Department a full-time additional employee approved so that we can manage our parks adequately. Thank you.
Thank you. Lionel Chavez.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Lionel Chavez. I am from 11 Blackwatch Lane in Ledyard, and I will be reading a letter from Colton Harris, who couldn't be here tonight. My name is Colton Harris. I'm a Groton resident who has been a beneficiary of the skate park since its conception. The skate park is a hub for creativity, community, and connection. It serves as home for many people across generations, as well as a cultural landmark and spectacle. It has nurtured relationships, social and cultural development, and physical health and wellness. Skateboarders are artists, architects, and athletes who are in need of quality facilities to be conducive for the sport to thrive, for larger community to experience its wealth of possibilities that inspires. It is an ecosystem for innovation, inclusion that transcends all boundaries. Our ask is that the town sees its centrality to the identity of Groton and larger southern eastern CT region. This means investment in the personnel and materials needed to enhance, maintain, and expand the skate park. More specifically, that Jeff Paparaki and his team be equipped with the contract and sufficient budget to make the park safer and more dynamic in accordance with their vision and architectural genius. These would begin the process of ensuring that the skate park is given preservation and attention to continue being a major draw for many to come to Groton, which is also ensure that it supports the economic drive of the town as a tourist destination. Furthermore, the skate park is a safe space for youth and adults alike to experience concrete therapy, which describes that healthy outlet skateboarding is an alternative sport that is fueled by community and individuality in a unique way. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. You're good.
Though it has long seen as a fringe sport, it is in fact in the mainstream of pathways for health and wellness. In this way, it facilitizes its facilities deserves just as much attention as fields and courts. This process would be best guided by a committee of local skateboarders who understand the need of the park, the community, and can design facilities to create an environment for the culture to be the best. This matter is urgent, vital, and requires much care and attention. Many stories are embedded in that concrete, and I want to see this tapestry continued in the space that brought us stories together and did so in this most beautiful way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If that can be sent to the town clerk, it can be included in the minutes, please. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? That's who I have on the sign-up list. Sir.
Good evening. I'd like to thank everybody for allowing me to speak. My name is Terry Burt. I live at 187 Ledgewood Road. I have been a taxpayer in Groton for 45 years. So I'm here to support the senior center and have been a volunteer here for about 8 years, as you can see by my shirt. The reason I am here is because there's an item in the budget that talks about changing a person who is a temporary employee to a more permanent employee, going from 30 to 35 hours. And in our discussions with various people here, we found that it was the volunteer coordinator. We are really upset about this because if it doesn't get approved, her position will go away. And as a volunteer coordinator, she coordinates the over 100 volunteers that we have. And before her, when she came in around 2019, we did not have any real functioning volunteer coordinator. Let me get my notes here. When COVID closed for a year and a half, the volunteer coordinator was paid by a special fund that was fees for various functions here paid for that. That was depleted during the thing, and now they do not have money, quote, to pay her, I guess. That's what my understanding is. The functions of the volunteers are as many. Every single function we have here, 30, 40 a year, are supported by the volunteers. Sometimes only 2 or 3, sometimes up to 20 or 30, depending on the function. Some of these functions are the Baker's Battle, which you've seen this banner down the street, Strawberry Festival, having a car cruise this June, a pizza and dance party later this month, the flea market in May. We have an American picnic, beach party, Thanksgiving luncheon, holiday luncheon, craft fair, holiday kickoff, if you remember, back in December, Super Bowl. And the volunteers are required to set up, do heavy lifting as required, decoration, cleanup. And many of our volunteers are not seniors. This is maybe something nobody knows about, because we have people from the Navy, we have people from the high school and colleges that get called. That's why we have a coordinator, and we would like to continue to have this coordinator, because if you look at this facility, you realize that we have one of the best senior centers, or Thrive 55 plus, and in the state. In fact, I was involved when we were accredited back in, well, it'll be 3 or 4 years ago now, and the person came from the headquarters of the accreditation group, and once she went through and looked at us, she claimed it was probably one of the 10 best senior centers in the country. And that's why I would like to keep it. And also, we're going to be accredited again next year. So please understand that we are very active. And as I look at this group of RTM, I see many of them are obviously 55 plus. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Yes.
Good evening. I'm Paul Fox. I live at 2 Essex Street in Mystic. And I'm here on behalf of the Willow Point Homeowners Association, which is an association of 35 homeowners on Willow Point. We are in one of the low-lying areas in Groton, and we have experienced a lot of flooding issues, partly because of global warming, partly just because of the way the tides are rising these days. Tonight, there's going to be a proposal made for a study to start to deal with some of the low-lying areas and the flooding zones in Groton. And we certainly are one of those areas. And the Homeowners Association would like to support that effort to continue to complete the study and to conduct the activities needed to alleviate those problems. At this point, in our area, there are times at full moon or no moon when the tides come up and cover the street, and our areas are not accessible. We can't get out of our homes. Our services will not, we don't get our garbage picked up. We don't get our mail delivered when those situations occur. So we're very much in support of the efforts of the town to go ahead and complete the study and take the actions needed to correct these problems in our area, and we would support that in other areas in town as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak tonight? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Shelby Larabina. I'm at 378 Meridian Street Extension. I'm here in support of the Groton Skate Park. Everyone supporting this park behind me has found something at Sutton Park. They've developed a passion, made friends, found family, and most importantly, they've built a community. And that last part is important because that's why we are all here tonight, with this common interest in our community. And it's very clear that the Groton Park plays an integral part of that. That being said, Sutton Park is unfinished after far too long. The lights pose a safety issue, the sidewalks are falling apart, the park needs to be expanded to accommodate the growing community that uses it. And as was mentioned in the last meeting, none of the facilities in Groton should be abandoned, neglected, or incomplete. We've done our part in raising almost $5,000 to improve the park, and I urge you to do your part in improving the funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. Can I just grab your last name, please?
Yeah, Larubina.
Larudn.
UB, sorry.
Sorry?
INA.
INA. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Anyone else? Yes.
Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Hogan. I live at 23 Friendship Circle. I'm here to talk in support of the Parks and Recreation proposed budget, and I'm very interested in listening to the issues that have been described tonight as a member of the Groton Parks and Recreation Commission, because I know what goes into maintaining the facilities and programs for Parks and Recreation, because I get to listen to it every month in detail, and how Sutton Park is being held together with some duct tape, maybe a little EB green. And the senior center runs on a shoestring. Everyone is so thrifty that there's no waste. And I said to Mark Berry today when I met him in the post office that the situation with Parks and Rec Department is similar to what we face with the school department. We waited so long to replace facilities until it got to be really an extreme situation. And I think we're reaching that point with Parks and Rec. The amount of acreage, the programming, all these things are expanding without additional personnel and, frankly, up-to-date equipment. So that I'm asking for you to give that consideration. Parks and Rec Department makes a big difference in our quality of life, in the safety of our citizens, and in the health and wellness of all of our residents from birth to seniorhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no other hands, I'm going to ask if the RTM has any clarifying questions. Town manager?
We're just going to mention on that Willow Point that it's CIP 2B for the 45,000 local drainage improvements, in case, just so you know.
CIP 2B. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out tonight. We are moving on to receipt of communications. Anyone?
I gave you a sticky note.
My sticky note says Amy Whitehouse has unofficially resigned. She still has to send in her her letter. Neil Gardner couldn't be here tonight. Representative Neil Gardner. Representative Kopp couldn't be here tonight. Representative Frickman couldn't make it.
He's here.
Oh, I'm sorry. And Representative Weaver were not able to attend tonight.
Representative Frickman is here.
Representative Frickman is here.
Sorry. We got you.
Thank you.
We have 32
Okay.
members.
Anybody else?
Just, we have another resignation in District 1. Sheila.
We
you-
announced that last
okay.
month. Yep. So we have 2 openings in District 1 currently.
One.
Well, one currently and one coming. Moving on to the report of the town manager.
Good evening. One thing to note is for the crowd that tonight is really just a budget update and then initial discussions on approach to the budget. So there won't actually be any numbers voted on. So if you're waiting for that, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew. So, financial report. Fund balance as of March 31st, 22, which remains unchanged from June 30th, 21, is approximately $28.8 million, which is 20.9% of the FYE 22 general fund adopted budget. The general contingency budget for 22 is appropriated at $350,000. Current balance of $341,000. But there are some fourth quarter transfers in the amount of $104,548 pending from the town council. And then the capital reserve fund balance as of March 22nd, 22 is $1.3 million. Let's see, I really don't have much of a report because I'm going to be giving a presentation later on the budget. I do know there was a question. Do you want me to mention the Board of Ed?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let me pull it up just one sec here. There was a question previously by the R.T.M. concerning the process for accepting grants by the Board of Ed. There was a process put in place back in 2019 that was essentially worked on by myself, by former Mayor Patrice Granatowski, by former moderator Sema Eben, Dr. Grenier, former superintendent, and I feel like I'm missing 1 or 2 people, but essentially went through the process, talked to attorneys to try to come up with a process. I will be sending the actual process to everyone tonight, as well as a copy of my presentation for later. But when a grant, so there's 2 types of grants: categorical grants, which are basically typically annual grants that would already be in the budget. But then there's competitive grants that you apply for and often get outside of the budget process. The categorical ones, of course, are already handled in the budget, but for the other type, when those are received, the Board of Ed will go through their normal process. Superintendent will inform myself of the grant, provide the relevant information, grant period, description of services, amounts, all that type of thing, deadlines. I initiate a referral to the Committee of the Whole, Town Council Committee of the Whole. The superintendent or their representative will present the grant to the Committee of the Whole. Upon recommendation by the COW, the agenda will be forwarded to the Town Council. Upon approval by the Town Council, it's forwarded to the R.T.M. And the R.T.M. moderator will refer the agenda item to the R.T.M. Education Committee. Education Committee will review and make a recommendation to the full body, and then the full body will accept or reject the grant per town charter. And I will send this out and this was done in 2019, I'll send this out later. And it was adopted by the Town Council and by the Board of Ed.
Just point of clarification, is there a threshold for those grants?
Well, it's a minimum of 10,000 because of the charter. It's anything over 10,000.
Thank you.
Sorry, I missed that.
Any questions to the town manager? Okay. The economic development.
Make sure nobody online.
sorry.
Okay.
The economic development report is in your packet, so you should have that.
I should have mentioned they're planning on attending the next meeting.
Okay.
Would like them there.
Okay. Superintendent is not here tonight, so we are on to liaison reports.
Their budget's going to be reviewed that night. Their budget's going to be reviewed on the 11th. Yeah.
Town.
Okay, I just found out their budgets might be reviewed. Oh, you mean in the main one or? maybe, oh yeah, we'll be in a minute. That's why it works out good.
Yeah, yeah.
We're on to liaison reports. Town Council Liaison, Representative Jacome.
Can you hear me? Cool.
You need to stand up.
Am I saying it's standing up?
Yep, yeah. Take that out, yep. Take it out.
Okay.
There you
All right. Thank you. So the Town Council met for the regular monthly Town Council meeting on April 5th at 6:30. They held two public hearings, one public hearing on introduction of an ordinance to establish a property tax abatement for surviving spouses of fallen emergency workers. They also held a public hearing on the affordable housing plan. There were several citizens' petitions and comments, concerns regarding creating a light trespass or pollution ordinance, the Mystic Education Center mediation, police committee selection, and data centers. The council also approved setting the RTM FYE 2023 town year budget annual meeting to Monday, May 2nd, 7 p.m. The council also approved the amount of bonds to be issued for FY 22. This is where, 22,975,000 general obligation bonds and 12,255,000 general obligation bond anticipation notes are sold. The council approved annual comprehensive financial report. The council considered an annual audit covering the fiscal year from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, and accepted and filed the ACFR report, the auditor's report, and the management letter. A resolution recognizing Juneteenth as an official town holiday, as the council has identified itself as a proactive municipality in the effort of diversity, equity, and inclusion was passed. And the council set 2022 rates and rules and regulations for the Shinnecock Golf Course. The council also approved CDBG 2022 Program Income Reuse Plan. This was a resolution authorizing a program income reuse plan for the Small Cities Block Grant application for housing rehabilitation. The council also had an update on the Wolfbrook property. That was executive session. The next regular meeting is May 3rd, 2022 at 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Representative Casper, do you have a Gulf Advisory report?
Yes, I do. The Gulf Advisory Board met Monday, April 4th at 7:00 p.m. via Zoom. February and March revenues were presented. February rounds played were 608, up from last year's 486, but 839 rounds were estimated to be lost due to weather events that resulted in 18 total course closures, 7 on weekends, with an estimated lost revenue of $26,615. March rounds played were 1,876, down from last year's 3,468, and weather caused an estimated loss of 919 rounds and $27,500 in revenue. However, total revenue through March was $840,859, which is lower than last year's March total of $879,084, but far exceeds the 4-year average of $604,383. Last year's total was a record season. Additionally, season passes sold in February were 56 versus 39 last year, and the 4-year average of 13.8. March was 126 sold versus 188 last year, compared to the average 4-year average of 62.5. Also discussed were the proposed 2022 course and membership fees and the Shinnecock goals and objectives. A discussion about Women's Golf Month/day events concluded the meeting. And that's the report.
Thank you, Representative Casper. Representative Aubry, do you have an economic development report?
A little bit. Can I do it from here?
If you stand up.
Stand up and grab the microphone.
Stand up. Thank you. Everybody takes good care of me. Gray hair has some advantage. The EDC committee met on April 7th at 5:30. The beginning of the meeting, there was quite a bit meeting that the EDC and I believe it was the Conservation that had an open forum here to talk about the IT center. About the IT center. They were very discouraged by the lack of decorum of the meeting, and so there was some discussion about that. They do need 2 members. They're down 2 members, so they're looking for 2 people that have a real interest in economic development in the town. I'm quite excited about the fact that they're starting a new meeting. The 3rd, I'm not sure if it's the 3rd Thursday or the last Thursday of the month. They'll be putting out information about it. But they're going to start doing a meeting at 8:30 in the morning. They're inviting businesses to come and talk about what they're seeing that's good and what they're seeing that's bad. And I'm hoping that this might come back into being some sort of GBA that we used to have in the past that was very active. And I think that was about the consensus of what was discussed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Education, Representative Thomas, did you attend any meetings? Okay, and Representative Thomas resigned as the education liaison, so we are looking for an education liaison. Representative Chase, was there a meeting yet for the RTM Town Council? No meeting. No meeting, thank you. And Representative Bright, congratulations on your appointment to the Citizen and Police Committee as the RTM ex officio member. I'm assuming they have not met yet?
No.
Okay, thank you. We are moving on to budget discussions. Committee meetings have started. I'm going to hold off on any of the committee reports until we meet next to start discussing the budget. The committee meetings, I believe, have all been scheduled and are out. So if you have any questions, they are on the town council town calendar. And our budget schedule is out, so everyone is aware. Our initial meeting will be Monday, May 2nd, and the rest of the meetings will be Wednesday, May 4th, Monday, May 9th, Wednesday, May 11th, Monday, May 16th, Wednesday, May 18th. They were all at 7 p.m., and RTM has the right to meet up until midnight on May 24th, so hopefully we will be done. 25th. Hopefully we will be done before that time. So I asked to have this meeting so that we could discuss concerns. There's been a lot of discussion with residents on things that they want to include, but there's also a lot of concerns about the increase in taxes with the housing re-eval. So I've asked Town Manager Burt to give us a bit of an overview and answer some questions.
Sure. I also have, sorry. I also, what's that?
Director Landry's here.
Yes, Director Landry is also on Zoom to answer any questions I don't have an answer for, hopefully. Yep. I'm going to share my screen. 1 second, please.
Can I turn that screen?
What's that? Everybody can see okay? Little background, the original town manager proposed budget was $148,334,375. As a reminder, a lot of this gets put together before we receive other things like the city's request, Board of Ed, and other things. It was a total increase of $10,690,000 or 7.8%. The proposed mill rate in the first draft was 22.4 mils, which would be a decrease of 3.58 because of the reval. The current right now mill rate is 25.98 and proposed fund balance use of $4 million. Now where we're at, there's still a couple of days. They have to do Public Works and Human Services left and contribution from other funds, but they're almost done with the budget. there might only be one more meeting, but the current proposed budget as it stands today is $142,669,353, which is a little over a $5 million increase, so 3.7% increase. Proposed mill rate is 21.16 currently, which is a decrease of 4.82 or 18.55%. This shows what changes the council has made so far. Small decrease to outside agencies of $15,000. Decrease in capital reserve of $4.3 million. Now most of this is moving about 3.9 to ARPA, but there's some cuts in there. City of Groton, $1.4 million cut for the seawall until there's more information. So that's through their total reduction of 5.754. And then the additions that they've put in there is the Parks and Rec, 82,598. Mystic River Ambulance, another 5,000 beyond what was in the proposed budget, and Town Clerk, 1,380. So again, total of $142,669,353. Pretty much here's the major factors that are really causing increased town departments, 1 million or so. Now, 3 main departments that's in. One is trying to get the Parks and Rec up to where they should be because they've taken on so many new properties. I can't tell you how many times I get complaints about properties. There's, because every time you have a subdivision, you get a little pocket park. I don't know if you know, they take care of cemeteries. They take care of all kinds of stuff. It's a huge list. But, and what we kind of do is we get complaints, we do that, and we neglect something else. We kind of move from complaint to complaint. For police, there's a lot of funding in there for police accountability bill, for body cam renewals, getting the next body cams, some requirements of the state. And then public works, it's all about inflation. We've got, utility increases, material increases like salt and things like that. It's just all gone up. So that's really the sole increase in public works. Debt service, we did, as mentioned, non-departmental insurance, 549,000 increase. Debt service, about 1.5 million increase for the next issuance, which we just did the actual issuance today, went well. Bond rating agency reviews went very well. Fitch upgraded to, I just blinked that out. I think it's AA plus or AA plus plus, kind of the second highest, which is where we're at on the other 2 bond rating agencies. And actually, we think it really helped us on the notes for our rate. Education, I said that, 1.7 million. Health and service agencies, a lot of that is Groton Ambulance, 386,000, 20.7% increase. So those things total about 5.2. Of course, there were some other reductions, so it's more than the overall increase there. Just so you can see, here's a list of the ARPA things they moved into ARPA funds. Some earlier things like Ledge Light and COG, 4.272 million or 4.3 million. And of course, these will be coming through CIPs to RTM, who can reduce or cut them as usual. And then total funds unallocated at this point is 4.3 million. There is, though, kind of holding out there to see what happens with the seawall, 1.4 million, so we're waiting for that. Council will be discussing ARPA at the 26th COW meeting, and I expect in the next few weeks we'll be putting out applications for people to apply for ARPA funding. Just kind of looking at my budget at the 22.4, where some values would be. The average increase in value of homes in the reval is 32%. So going from the 25.98 to the 22.4, which is overall 13.81% increase. Let's say you're at 200,000 in the last year before reval, you'd pay 51.96 approximately. 21, it goes to 32% increase, 264,000. You go up to 5,900, so it's about $718 increase. Dropping down to 300 as an example, 77.94. Going up to 88.70, which is a little over 1,000. 400,000 going from 10,392 to 11,827, so about 1,400. But under the current proposal, going down to the 21.16. We're now at it's a 7.51% average taxpayer rate in taxes increase. And again, the expenditure budget is only 3.7, but the actual taxes, that would be going up 200,000, going to 264, $390. increase. For the $300,000, it would be a $585 increase for the year. And for $400,000, it'd be $780 for the year. So quite a bit of difference from the first draft of the budget. Just kind of what the effect of Groton 2020 is, about 1.42 mils out of the debt, there's a total of 1.86 mils for school bond related things, but only 1.42 is, 1.86 mill rate equivalent. 1.42 of the mill rate equivalent is for Groton 2020, which is about average homeowner, it's about $356 a year that you're paying so far for the Groton 2020 of your taxes. Average residential value in 20 before the reval was $195,576. After reval, average is $250,989. Average taxes in 21 was $5,081. Average taxes in 22 at the 22.4 mils, the original proposed mill rate would have been the $5,622, or an increase of $541. But average taxes under the new proposed mill rate, current proposed mill rate, which could slightly shift next week, is $5,300 average taxes paid, which is a $230 increase. Let's see, as I already mentioned, the ARPA, and just so you know, moving those ARPA dollars over, that decreased the mill rate by about 0.85 or $213 per household on average. Percent of homes, I was asked for percent of homes over 30%. It's 51% of homes were over the 30% reval increase. If you wanted to cut one more mill out, it'd be 4.6 million, which it'd be near impossible. You'd have to hold the MBR for the education, and you'd have to zero out all CIPs. Existing proposed average tax increase, as I mentioned, right now 7.51%, which could change next week, but it should be somewhere around there. Amount of cuts you would have to do to get to a flat 7% increase in taxes would be $460,000, basically 0.1 of a mil. Which would bring it from 21.6 to 21.06. If you wanted to get all the way down to 5%, you'd have to cut about 2.25 million out of the budget to get down to 20.67. And that's an update on the budget.
Thank you, Jim.
Do we have questions?
So the next budget meeting is Monday night, I believe. They're maybe finished up that night, other than on the 26th, they'll set the actual fund balance usage and the mill rate, so.
I'm so sorry. Representative Surf.
Sir.
Representative Surf, I can't hear you. I'm going to move on and then come back to you. Representative Bailey.
Thank you very much. Just a request, and it's probably going to be like a normal one, but if that could be sent, the PowerPoint to be sent out at some point in a future email.
Oh, for sure.
Thank you.
Representative Casper.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Mr. Burke, was that, you said the average increase in value of residential home was 31% in revaluation?
32%.
32%.
Yes.
What was the overall increase in the town's grand list?
Cindy, I forget offhand.
It was 24%.
And I just
Thank
hit
you.
send on your copy of this, so you know I'll have it.
Representative Casper, did you hear her?
Yep, I heard, and thank you, and that's what I wanted to know.
Okay. Representative Surf?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, so I have a bunch of questions. Unfortunately, since I've been ill, I missed out on a few things. What was the average increase, if any, in the grand list due to business and industrial properties?
Cindy, do you happen to have that on you? Some of these may be things we have to send out tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think that I have that level of detail. I didn't bring that with me.
Well, that's really unfortunate because we had this problem a number of years ago when there was a spike in residential real estate values all of a sudden, just as there was in the last year. And it just happened to be at the same time that the revaluation was done. And there was exactly this kind of an increase in residential property values. And the state had allowed, and because there was a very little increase comparatively, I think the increase in industrial and business was only maybe about 15%. That means that the residential property owners have to take the brunt of the tax increases, as we can see in your presentation. And I'm shocked to see how much the increase is of 7% for residential property owners. Did you at all do the same kind of calculation for how much the increase was going to be for business and industrial property owners? Because I didn't see that on your presentation. It's residential property owners are all taking it in the teeth. And I'm really surprised after we went through this once before, and the remedy to that was something that was allowed by the state, which was a phase-in of all property values over 3 years. So instead of jumping all the property values to 30% on the first year, we were allowed to do it, but it took 800 signatures because the town was not cooperative at all in helping us do this. But we did get the 800 signatures, and the council did vote to allow the phase-in, which prevented this enormous increase of 7% in 1 year, which I just can't believe that, and then you don't give us any accounting whatsoever of what business and industrial, what they're probably going to get a huge decrease. Why don't you present that to us?
Well, my actual presentation, I was presented with a list of questions 2 days ago, and this is actually the information I was requested. But Cindy, are you making a note of any financial questions that we don't have that we can answer later?
Yes, and I do have the narrative. I did happen to bring that home with me, and I do have the percentages by category, but I do think that we need to say that the 32%, we were only asked for residential, so I can give you the percentages change from 20 to 21 for the other categories, or I could send it out to you tomorrow.
I can't see who's speaking right now.
It's
Director
Cindy
Landry.
Oh, Cindy, okay. Yeah, if you could do that, because, I am, as I said, I've been in Groton politics for 20 years, but I'm really shocked to see this kind of an increase when you're in fact trying to reduce the budget, and that, and that we don't have a comparative figure for business and industrial.
Did you say that you wanted me to send this out to you tomorrow?
Well, as soon as possible, because we have to start voting on these things. And
we'll compile.
I really think that if the reval was done the way I think it was, which is to simply look at the comp sales for residential, and then jack everybody up 30%, and business and industrial didn't take a hit at all, then I think we should cut this budget really drastically, and especially when it comes to town services, because, you're not serving the residential property owners, I think, in a fair way. For one thing, you should have suggested the phase-in like we did the last time we had this problem.
We'll compile anything we don't have tonight and get it sent out ASAP.
Representative Watson.
I mean, who's going to want to live?
Yes.
Nobody's going to want to live here anymore.
Representative Watson has the floor.
Did you call on me, Madam Moderator?
Yes, sir.
Harry Watson?
Yes.
My question is, For Mr. Burt, thank you very much for the nice, concise, brief summary of what, where things are. But my question has to do with the ARPA funding. John, there was, you sought out some public input on how to divvy this money up. And I'm glad to see that it isn't all divvied up. There's still some left over. But is there a summary of what the input was, John?
It's going to be, we're putting it together. It's going to be presented to the council on the 26th, the next cow. And we can certainly provide that to you when it's put together also.
Yeah, I would like a copy. I mean, not if anybody else doesn't want it, that's fine. But I'd be curious as to see how the summary of that. Thank you very much,
Yep.
Sean.
We'll send it out to everybody. I'll make a note right now of it.
Yeah.
Representative Thomas.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to, building off of Representative Watson's question, I'm curious to know about the ARPA funding and how it's been allocated throughout the budget process so far, and how are we doing that logically when the Long-Term Recovery Committee has not yet issued a report, and you haven't even had the town council vote on the ARPA allocations yet. So I'm just not quite sure how you can.
I'm not going to go into the thinking of the council. I can just tell you prior they did a few of those, which I showed on a list like Ledge Light and the COG.
This body also approved those.
Right, and these will come too. Right. The council chose to use the ARPA funds on things they thought had been cut for years and likely would have trouble moving forward, and that would be good for the whole of the community. But that's,
But they're doing that without the input of the Long-Term Recovery Committee. Is that correct?
Well, they've had updates along the way. They've been seeing the notes from all the meetings, and there was a draft presentation of the latest survey at the last long-term recovery.
But it's not public knowledge.
Stand up.
But it's not public knowledge at this point. Like, that committee report's not been officially published and shared with the public. It's not been approved by the council. The plan is not in place.
Again, I don't make that decision. If the council chose to use those ARPA, I'm not going to speak on their behalf.
Okay, but you presented the ARPA as an option during those meetings.
I was asked to. It wasn't my idea.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just find that, again, illogical. It seems like it's cart before the horse kind of thing. And, the public has yet to really weigh in. I mean, we've had some input, but we haven't seen the official feedback on that as far as like what buckets have been allocated and what priorities have been identified. So it's incorporating all of the public input and feedback in a integrated report. So problematic.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. My first question, my insurance brain kicked in when I saw that increase of well over $500,000. Is that property and casualty insurance or benefits?
Most of that's health insurance. There's, Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, was it about, I feel like it was about $50,000 for property insurance, and that was because of the new schools. We actually are paying for, we're in the middle of, there's values have not been sorted out over the years between the school and the town, so we're sorting that out. So in the meantime, we've picked up a good chunk of the new schools, so that's why it's going up.
Okay.
But we've got that on the agenda to talk with Board of Ed to try to figure out what the right percentage is in the future.
Does the Board of Ed pick up a portion of the insurance premiums, or is it all paid for in one bill?
No, they pick up a portion of it. I believe we get billed and we bill them. Is that correct, Cindy?
I believe that is the way it's handled.
Yeah.
Okay. My second comment, and I'm just kind of sitting here laughing to myself a little bit. I think hell might have frozen over. If I think phase-in might be a decent idea for us to look at. I've been around this game for a long time, and when I was on the council, I fought very hard against the phase-in because at the time I was able to figure out that there was a big pile of winners and a big pile of losers of phasing in an evaluation process. But if I'm reading this correctly, that across the board, doesn't matter if your home is on the water or if your home is at the ledgered line, you got a 32% increase in the valuation of your home.
Average, not, yeah.
Well, but still, I mean, if that average is 32% across the board, that might be worth taking a look at to save the taxpayers some money. And we can phase in over a course of period of time. I don't know if people understand what that means. So you would, whatever your increase is, you would divide it by 5 or 3 or whatever the number is, and so it would ultimately lower the amount of money your house is taxed against. And it was a process 20 plus years ago where the homes on the water they used to be worth the same as a house on the ledger line, and all of a sudden they were worth bazillions of dollars, and people were panicking because their tax bills were going to go from a regular number to like 40 grand. And so I think it's the phase-in thing might be worth taking a look at. I did say that in a finance committee meeting the other night. I don't know if that's something the council can look at. They've got a pretty tight timeline to do that, but I think it's worth studying.
Cindy's going to look at it, but I'm actually communicating with her. She thinks we can't do it at this point, but she'll look. She'll find out.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Representative Eben. Representative Eben.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Nothing commercial.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to ask Mr. Burt about the Long-Term Recovery Committee, because I had served on that since, since it was created. And we were supposed to have a meeting on March 16th, which was canceled because there was a meeting with Mr. Thomas Quinn, the would-be developer of the data center off of Hazelnut Hill Road. And I just wanted to know if there had been an additional meeting just to see where that was, because I wasn't aware of any findings coming out of that committee.
We met on the 23rd, a week later.
Okay, I was never, alerted to that meeting, so I think I must have fallen off your email list. And I just wanted to note about the the long-term recovery and the work. Less than 1% of the town had, at that time when I was at the last meeting, which was in February, only like 0.02% of the town had actually contributed input to that survey that the planning department had done. So it was a very small slice of folks. There was little outreach to people who didn't have computers or Wi-Fi. Even at the senior center, seniors I know had no ability to take that because the computer at the senior center isn't working. So anyway, I just wanted to note that, and I agree with Representative Cerf that it would be really, really useful to see this breakout of residential versus industrial and commercial evaluations. We're told that we have to grow the grand list, and yet the residential is really bearing the burden of that growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Gauthier.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Burt, would you or perhaps Cindy be able to give us a high-level kind of overview of how those valuations were done this past time around, and then perhaps something a little bit more detailed via email so that we can consider that when we go through this budget?
Cindy?
I was wondering if the Revale Company did go and give a presentation to the council, and perhaps I will pull that information together and send it out to the RTM.
I think we have some.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
I think there's some stuff on our website too, so we can send that.
Representative Cerf.
Okay. Just one more quick thing about the phase-in and the reval. I was on a committee with Michael Barron years ago. Harry might remember this. When we tried to understand how the reval was done, especially with respect to business and industrial, it's much more difficult to do because there are far fewer comparables. In other words, what do you compare a Pfizer building to in the town of Groton, right? How often does Pfizer sell a building? And so you don't have comparable sales there. You have to look at, there are three different ways of doing it. Anyway, I'm not gonna waste your time on that, but it is really difficult to evaluate industrial and business. And the result is that they do not, when there's a big increase in residential like that, they do not get increased as much. So when the council finally voted on the phase-in, the Pfizer representatives came and they were absolutely they were really upset because they were going to get a huge tax break because of this. And that was when people finally figured out that these kind of revals in these times, when real estate just skyrockets all of a sudden, are really very destructive for residential property owners. And your property price never goes back down again, by the way. So that's what I'd like to. I think you RTM people are interested in how the reval is done, how business and industrial are evaluated, and we should get a presentation on this. And the other thing that I would like to comment is, I really hate to see these ARPA funds, so much of them go to the golf course. There's like $500,000 or more that is going to the $400,000 for the golf course bathrooms. I mean, this is money for COVID, for God's sake. You know, it's not for golf course bathrooms. I mean, the skate park, I would say yes, bike paths, yes, because all those things are all good for people's health. But I mean, I find it rather offensive that so much money, and I love golf, by the way. I'm a golf nut. But I really find it offensive that so much money has been allocated to the golf course. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Cerf. Town Manager Byrd, I have one final question.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. We have ARPA funding in the education budget. Does that increase our MBR, which?
Well, no. You know, even if they use it for supplemental, it's all about the bottom line number. So whatever you pass right now, it's the 1.7 million increase. That increases the MBR.
The 1.7 million does not include ARPA funding?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does. What I'm saying is whatever that bottom line is, that's what your new MBR is, regardless of where the funding comes from. If it's in the budget under expenditures, well, I think it's tax revenue. Cindy? Let me think about that.
I believe that the Board of Ed is accounting for their ARPA funds separately. It's not part of the Board of Ed's,
Okay. It's not part of the request.
What we call the 1080 budget.
So they're doing a separate budget basically for it, so not
for ARPA.
Yeah, I would expect that they were handling it off their books. I don't want to say off the books. Let me retract that. But separately, like we are in a separate fund. Our ARPA funds are not part of our general fund budget. We are accounting for those separately in a separate special revenue fund.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Representative Fritchie. Can you talk? Can you stand up?
Because I don't know who's talking at home. It should be on. Oh, boy.
I'm Alfred Fritchie from 59 House Lane in Mystic.
And representative from the 6th District.
How dare they, right? I have studied the data that is on the website at length, and I would like to ask that, number one, that the personal property be converted to Excel so that we can take that data and add it in. It's too long a list to type out personally. And I think the same thing might be true of the sales group that they used as examples. Okay, so having said that, I wanted to point out, maybe most everybody read it. On Monday, there was 2 articles about what's happening in the background out there. One was an article about the graying homeless. Does anybody see that? Graying homeless. And it talked about people that, and it's happening here too, where the rents are climbing so fast that people can't afford them. And in effect, I don't know how they're avoiding homelessness other than squeezing more people into a smaller unit. And also, and I don't understand economically, other than for the exodus out of the cities, why there is such huge demand all of a sudden that hasn't been there for the last 10 years, or 8 years, if you want to call it that. And so I don't know whether, I do know, and I have heard that 20% of the properties are being purchased as investments, and they're buying them, and they're raising the rents, and that it's just a way, it's like buying a stock, I guess. It's a business. So one thing that I mentioned to Mr. Burton, he had already heard of it and others did too, is that in our community, we don't have enough houses as it is. And to allow people to buy houses and convert them to A, B, and B places would be a real detriment to the community. And I think there is a way to get around it. No Inc. already did it. A friend of mine engineered it, actually, and I think we can do it in Groton. And I see nothing but very positive responses when I mention this, that we don't have A, B, and B, or whatever they call it, next to my house or somebody else's house. I don't think you really want that. So that would help us in terms of keeping housing available to people who live here, and and maybe keeping the rents down. The second article in that same day, Monday, talked about the imperative of solving the fuel problem, and I did look out in futures indexes, and it did show that is 23-24 a significant reduction in the estimated cost for natural gas, possibly for some other things. So hopefully things will get better. But right now, people in all sections of life, I don't care whether you are well off or even if you just have enough money, the increased costs that we're facing are really a drag. You know, they are a drag for everybody. And I don't know how to solve that problem, but we have this conundrum where this year we happen to have extremely high tax increase as well as having all the other things that we experience daily go up at the same time. So it's really a conundrum. I guess that would be a good word for it. But so I had a couple ideas. One is, all right, you used $4 million of the reserve this year, right? And that's still in the budget summary that you...
Right, if the council chooses to keep that, right?
Yeah. Okay, but you were able to get the ARPA money to offset $4 million, which is really good. That drops it down a full 1.5 points, which is a good number, right? In the new mill rate. But you still have a huge CPI program, right? If I'm getting the language correct, okay? CIP program. And I'm sitting there, if that's mostly for roads, and I'm thinking about projects I've worked on where they really depend on what the price of oil is any given day when it comes to asphalt. So I'm hoping you either have contracts that were negotiated a year, maybe in like November of 2020, because we did that at SEAT, and we did it. We were paying $1.25 a gallon for gas, $1.36 for diesel. We're now paying a renegotiated rate at the end of last year, October or so, twice that, and it would be 3 times that if we negotiated today. So I'm sitting there saying, I've seen this before, and I've talked to contractors about paving, and they are very dependent on the price of fuel. And I almost think you should defer until the prices get back to reasonable levels, if it's that much of an impact. And you would probably know better than I do. I just know that it has been in consideration. So
yeah, just to mention, the paving part, of course, we do ourselves. We don't contract it out, but we have rates for fuel locked in until this fall at some point, which will get us through the summer. Yeah. Greg does not anticipate a large impact on the roads from one year to the next with this summer's. Now, maybe next year, depending on what we lock the next ones into.
You're not paving a lot of roads this summer?
Our average amount, that's barely keeping us to the minimum level.
All right. Well, I thought this was a big year because you had put it off from
it's about 800.
2 years ago.
We have a little bit of road bond money left. I think we're trying to be, just to keep at that PCI index, the rating of how the roads are, we try to keep it a minimum of 70, or the average. Obviously, we have plenty that are below, but we try to keep that level. It's about 1.2 million a year to keep that. We have 400,000, I believe, left from the final dollars from the bond for the roads, and so it's about between 800,000 and 900,000 in the budget for actual general fund through the capital for roads this year. And then next year you'll see it back to like 1.2.
Yeah, okay. About how much fuel price affects the cost of the asphalt you're putting down, and that is your major element of cost is the asphalt. So.
And I'll ask, I'll check with Greg Hanover, the Public Works Director, and get back with you.
Yeah, okay, that'd be great. I get mad when I hear about the fuel and everybody's talking about maybe they'll come up with a California-style rebate for people for gas, because I do know I have a friend who actually owns wells in the Permian Basin in West Texas, and he says 60-65 makes everybody happy. And I asked him that, this was before this event, so why they ran it up to $110, I don't know, but it doesn't make sense, and the rents being run up don't make sense to me either, because I don't see where the people enduring the expenses that rented the apartments were, were economically driven to raise. It's only because they could, is really what it amounts to. And that's really hurting people. So the revaluation, all right, just one more thing. One of the questions was you took $4 million out of the reserve. And next year, the question is, are you going to be able to take $4 million again and again until we get through this troubled times of high expense for everything, if we do get through it.
I'd like to whittle that down. We've been holding the budget down so much during COVID, like the Board of Ed for 2 years, keeping it zero, that, we especially need it this year to soften the impact, but I'd like to taper it down, but we have a pretty healthy fund balance right now.
Do you?
I mean, it's been going pretty good. We've been surprised how little, we assumed going to COVID that our collection rates would be impacted and other things, and it didn't at all. So actually our collection's up.
Yeah, so it's not going to affect us. For next year, we're going to get slammed with not putting that.
No, I try to
any
avoid
funds available.
I try to avoid that. Yes.
Okay, all right. No,
Although I would
I'm
like
just
to taper it
warning
down
you that because it's nice this year, but it sort of hides the truth about the expense. But those expenses are fixed expenses that have driven us here. I think is really what it amounts to. The CIP and the other ones. So I'm not really complaining. All right, so yes, and I have to concur with some of the people asking for questions, but I can't really do it until but I did want to ask for the assessments by town, whether it's No Anchor, Groton Long Point, or Mystic, or Center Groton, or Groton City, or whatever the pricing is, because there's appearance of that this activity of New Yorkers, and it is still going on. I know somebody personally who isn't even going through a realtor, and he's getting offers for his house that are in excess of what was already a ridiculous amount of money in the first place that they went through. So it's not ended yet, where people are coming in here and asking and paying big money for houses that are well above the ability of the incomes reflected in our per capita income for this town.
Thank you.
And so, what we're doing is really creating a situation where we're not going to be able to house employees and so forth. And I don't want to get into it too much because we can't change it, but I would like to really study economically what we can do in the future to make sure this doesn't happen. I like Mr. Scott's phase-in, although I understand its trouble. So I'm going to end there. I think I've spoken too much already, so
Thank you. Representative Sean Powers.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Manager Byrd, there is a process to appeal the assessment, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And
Though I think we're now past that. for
okay,
filing.
but we had that process in
Yes.
place when
And we tried to
everyone-
publish it out there so
Correct.
people could see.
And that process was to go.
Surprisingly, though, we had much fewer than anticipated for a reval year for people applying for that.
Right, so they could have met with Tyler, and then and we still have a Board of Appeals, right? A assessment Board of Appeals that you can also go through?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Representative Chase.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This is budget discussion, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So since we have so many new people on the RTM, I just want to encourage everyone to watch all the town council budget deliberations, look at the Board of Ed budget workshops, not just their presentation to the town council. You will learn a lot there. And one thing I want to caution, because I work with this in my job, is hiring staff with ARPA dollars. Temporary dollars should never pay for staff, and just keep that in mind. So when you're watching them, listen and read between the lines, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Cerf. We're not hearing you.
It's unmuted.
Is she gone?
She's on there. I can see her. There's in the corner.
Representative Cerf, did you have another comment? There we go. Maybe?
Yeah,
Oh.
Now we got you.
I have one more comment. Yeah, I didn't want to make such a fuss on the first meeting where I'm actually speaking, but I can't see which representative just spoke there about the property revaluations. Could
That
you
was
tell me,
Representative
Betsy?
Chase.
No.
Oh, the reeval, Representative Sean Powers and Representative Fritchie.
Oh, Sean Powers? Okay. I just wanted to say also something quickly on the subject of Airbnbs. The Planning and Zoning Commission is planning on working with the town council on trying to set up some rules for the town of Groton, because we really don't have any. And in point of fact, there are really serious violations of our zoning regulations, because many of these B&Bs in Mystic, the one next door to me for one thing, on 8 Pearl Street, are being operated like businesses by corporations that are somewhere out in the Midwest and that employ other corporations to do all the cleaning and the
What's your point? Representative
Okay.
Nassett.
Well,
I rise to
I would just like to.
This is a discussion on the budget and not about Airbnbs.
Thank you. Your point's
Well,
taken.
this
Representative
is about
Cerf.
the budget
Representative
because
Cerf.
it's about the
Representative
reval,
Cerf.
and the reval.
Representative Cerf.
One of the
This is your
reasons the
Representative
property values
Cerf.
went up 30% is because these companies are buying the houses and.
Representative Cerf. Thank you. Okay. Is there somebody else who would like to discuss? Representative Cerf, we are discussing the budget, and that's why you were asked to stay on topic.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Is there anybody else who has a budget question? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go to kind of the fun part. So in the past, pre-COVID, every district provided snacks during the budget sessions. Is this something, show of hands, that you would like to do? I'm getting a yes. Okay. So I am going to start with our biggest district, which is District 4, for the first night of the budgets, which would be May 2nd. So if District 4 could please bring snacks for that night, and then we will go down the line. So May 4th will be District 5, May 9th will be District 6, May 11th will be District 7, May 16th will be District 1, and May 17th will be District 2. That conveniently leaves me out. District 3 will tag on to District 2 night because there's only 4 of them. So
You'll give me that information? I will
Yes.
send it out.
Any questions about that? Representative Watson?
Yeah, would you send out a snack schedule, please?
We will, absolutely. It's the important stuff. All right, seeing no other questions, is there any other business?
Recess.
All right.
No, adjourn.
We had a motion to adjourn?
It's not a regular meeting.
It's non-debatable. We are adjourned. Thank you. It is.